And greetings and welcome to the QCast. This is season 6, episode 6. And we're getting to the point in the QCast where when interesting things happen, we go back to some people that have been on the show before. And Coach Matt Lewis of Wisconsin-Oshkosh was one of the first people I called when I decided to start this little venture called the QCast. And he was with me, season 1, episode 7. Matt, that was April 6th, 2021. I went back to that, and I know I looked a lot younger. I think you still look the same, but 2021, that's been a while ago now.
Yeah, it feels like I mean literally just yesterday in some senses, but I've now got twin daughters that are 4.5 years old, and they were not alive the last time I was on this thing. So in that sense, it feels like forever ago to me. So I appreciate the opportunity to come back on.
Well, it's fun to have you on, and for good reason. The Titans are playing really good basketball right now. It just fresh off the press here. Wisconsin Oshkosh checks into the D3hoops.com top 25 at number 17 after not being ranked in the preseason. And I don't know if you're going to give me a coach's answer here, or what, but being ranked is kind of cool, isn't it, Matt? I mean, being ranked is better than not being ranked.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. I mean, I think after our last 2 years, like we weren't great at times our last 2 years, and so to get back kind of in the mix or at least being talked about is a fun thing for our guys. But there's also the reality that we have had discussions. I just had them with our guys a few minutes ago. Really, the rankings don't mean a ton, other than it is fun, and it means there's a group of people that really follow D3 hoops. And so I give a huge shout out to all the people that sit on that and vote. It's awesome that you guys invest as much time into it as you do. So I am excited for our guys that they get a little recognition, but ultimately we've got to really focus on what we're currently doing, and we've got some things, no doubt, we got to get better at.
You're sitting at 3-1 right now in the season. We'll kind of get into that a little bit. You started the year off with a big win over a great program in St. John's. At the Sigma Invitational, you beat Maryville. You lost to Illinois Wesleyan. You come back, you beat Carroll. Sitting here at 3-1. Before we get into kind of style and all that stuff, which I'm fascinated by, how do you feel about where you're sitting through these 4 games and kind of how you guys are playing relative to your expectations?
Sure. We thought we had a pretty good crew coming back. I mean, we brought back virtually everybody from last year, and then Michael Metcalf-Grassman being able to come back the way he has is really a nice shot in the arm. And so we were pretty optimistic coming into the year, but we opened with St. John's, and Pat McKenzie does a tremendous
Yeah,
job. And we went over to St. John's last year and got beat by them on their home court with their, 9 seniors or 8 seniors,
they were
whatever it
great.
was. And so it's like they're coming to our building. And that's going to be a battle. And I was excited to be able to beat them to open. And then Maryville's really good. I mean,
Yeah.
they've won a crazy percentage, 80 or 79, 80, 81% of their games for the last 4 or 5 years. And Coach does an awesome job. I was able to interact with him at the Final Four in San Antonio, and we knew that that was going to be a battle. And so I was really pleased that we won that. And then the Illinois Wesleyan game, like I mean, that was a dogfight, and they're
Yeah.
obviously very, very good. They've got some influx of really nice pieces, and then they've got some returners that are really good. And so I ultimately would have liked to won the game, no doubt. But I think there were some good lessons that we learned and could take away. And then Carroll's a good CCIW program that I think is going in the right direction, and Coach Jansen does an awesome job with them, and they play really hard. And in my 14 years, I had not been to Carroll. I had an assistant, Kyle Jones, that came from Carroll. And so I felt like I sort of knew Carroll, but you walked into a building you've never been in, you don't know where
Right.
the locker room is, like all those things are going on, and you're trying to beat a CCIW team. And so when we walked out of there with a win, I was really excited just because we had never won there before. So ultimately, I like what we've done the last couple weeks. I think it's given us some good confidence, but it's also given us some realities on things we need to continue to focus on.
Anyone that's watched you guys play knows that you're playing a much different style of basketball this season. And I didn't watch your St. John's game. I should have because I saw you at the Shirk Center before your game against Maryville. Saw you out by the locker rooms, and basically I said something like, "Well, I don't really know much about your team other than you have a bunch of big dudes who are going to grind the ball and blah blah blah." And you said, "Well, you might be surprised at how we play." And I didn't really know what you meant. I said, "Well, it's not like you're running the system, and you're not running the system, but you're running a system." And it's fascinating to me. So basically, the way I would describe it is you are playing with like 5-man wholesale line changes, 5 in, 5 out quickly. You're not running around like crazy people like Grinnell. No offense to my friends at Grinnell, but you're pressing, you're trapping, you're shooting a lot of threes. I think 50% of your field goal attempts are threes. You're scoring 84 a game. I want to say a year ago you scored like 70. A year ago, only a 30 your shots were threes. So you've changed style. So let's just start with this is a head coach with a national championship at one of the best programs in the country, tons of success. So talk us through the decision to play basketball a little bit differently this year.
I mean, if I'm being completely candid, I was honestly just kind of getting bored with playing the same way. We've had a ton of success here. The last 2 years, we've had some really good moments in each of those years. In November and December of last year, prior to Metcalf going and he had that serious injury. Prior to that injury, we had a really good stretch. I think we were 9-2, 9-3. We were averaging in the mid 80s. And then conference play was, a bit of a gut check for us for the second year in a row. And I'd been toying around with the assistants that I had had, like let's change up what we're doing. And we talked about it for probably a year and a half. Like what needs to change? What can we do? We shouldn't just stay the same. Let's see what's out there. And so I looked into pressing. We had dove into some different things offensively. And this spring, ultimately there was just a hey, is it time? And then we looked at the roster we had coming back, looked at the incoming freshmen, said, "Yep, now's the time to make a change." And so it wasn't something that we randomly threw together, but we had processed for a few years, kind of maybe it's time for a change. And then ultimately in the spring, I got back from San Antonio and I just told myself, "Yep, we're doing it." And fortunately, we've got a really good assistant coach, Max DeGeorge, that is doing a lot of the offensive stuff for me, and he's tremendous. And then I can just focus a lot of my time on the defensive side of the ball. Max does come from Grinnell, and so if people think there are similarities to Grinnell, like Max is just a really smart guy that's seen their system, and so there's some different processes and things that we can implement from them. Um, it was just kind of time, and I think that it just came ultimately at the right time because our personnel fits this. The guys have really leaned heavily into it. I've been fortunate that Max came along when he did, and so I just think it's all culminated, right time, right place, and here let's try something new. And I'm pretty excited about it. It's been a rejuvenating thing, I think, for us.
And your personnel does fit really well with this because first of all, you're really deep. Like you're really deep. And you could probably play if you wanted to 15 guys. You certainly can go 12 deep in a game very easily. That's number one is you're deep. Two, you have really mobile guys. There's when I think of old school WIAC, maybe I think of Jack Flint, right? Like Jack Flint setting up in the post and dominating everybody. You have a lot of size. You have a lot of 6'5" to 6'7", 6'8", but they're guys that move. These are none of these would be a guy you'd really call a five. You got a lot of threes and fours that really are mobile. Um, and so when you talk about being set up for this, is there anything else that goes into deep, mobile, anything else about your guys that made you say like this could work for us?
I think we've got a hungry group that wants to win, and they were willing to make changes, try new things. If we thought that it would help them win, and not only early in the season, late in the season, and was a system that would allow us to continue to get better, they were all about it. And most importantly, with that, is like they just are very selfless guys. I mean, we've got some guys that, their minutes are almost cut in half from last year. I mean, Carter Thomas, Joey
Right.
LaChapelle, those guys played huge minutes in conference play. Brandon Beck's currently our leading scorer. He was playing 30 plus minutes a game last year. And those guys, their minutes have come down. Some of them aren't getting quite as many shots as they used to get, but they just keep going with it and they keep trying new things. And so I just think we've got really selfless guys that have leaned heavily into it. The young guys that we've got, the freshman and the sophomore group, those guys are just really smart basketball wise. And so I think they've just been able to really adapt and pick up on new concepts. So I think that's really helped with the transition. But ultimately, it's all started just the older guys that maybe they might be literally seniors with one more go, and they've played motion and half court man to man their entire career. And now this last year, we've asked them to do something completely different, and they're just going with it. And so I just give a lot of credit to those guys for being willing to try something new, having faith in it. And so far, it's resulted in some good stuff. And ultimately, I think it's going to allow this group to play their best basketball as we move forward.
And a great point about having a selfless group because yeah, when I look at the minutes, essentially you've got like 10 guys that play 16 to 19 minutes, somewhere in there. And then you've got several guys that play a little bit less than that, but you don't have anyone that's playing 34 minutes a game or that kind of thing. So this would be tough if you had a selfish group. You clearly have buy-in to this. You mentioned Brandon Beck is your leading scorer, currently 17 points a game. Joey LaChapelle, number two, boy, he's really a player. He looked great at the Shirk Center. 10 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists per game. Carter Thomas, Jay Dalton. You just got back Michael Metcalf-Grassman. Vittorio Dante. Is he related to the kid that was at Carroll?
Yep,
Paradiso Dante?
Paradiso.
They,
Yep.
kudos to the parents. Paradiso and Vittorio. How good is that, coach? That's pretty good.
Yeah, they got some great names, and then their sister. So there's three of them. They're an awesome family. I'll go on one tangent here because I've been fortunate to have some great assistants. One of our former assistants a few years ago was Luke Duckett, was the
Yeah.
gentleman. He was Keith Van Horn's AAU director in Colorado and coached Paradiso.
Oh, wow.
And Luke came back to the Midwest and helped at Carroll when Kyle Jones, now the head coach at Simpson, was at Carroll. And they went out and recruited Paradiso from the Colorado suburb or from the Denver suburbs.
Yep.
And so a couple of years ago, and we're like, hey, we need length, athleticism, guys that can shoot it, they're skilled. Duck and Jones looked at me and said, well, we know a kid in Colorado.
Yeah.
Okay, like this may be the first ever kid from Colorado to play at Oshkosh. So yeah, they're a tremendous family, tremendous family.
And he's a good player. I like him
He
a
is,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah, 6'7" sophomore forward. Matt Emig. Is it Emig? Am I saying that right?
Correct. Yep.
And then the Rindfleisch boys, Logan and Jonah. I think I last saw Jonah at that Great Lakes Invitational at Wittenberg. Am I saying that he got hurt? Like he got season-ending injury right in front of my eyes at Wittenberg, maybe. And it's good to see him back. His younger brother, I assume Logan's his brother. Yes,
Correct.
younger brother. Jonah is 6'8", Logan 6'5". So a
And then we
really
just another tangent. We have Riley, the middle Rindfleisch, isn't. So we got three,
you got
we
three of
got
them on this roster.
three on the same roster. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
talented family. And when I saw you guys play, um, I've seen enough D3 games when I'm at a game that feels like an Elite Eight game. I think I pick up on that pretty quickly. I felt watching you guys play Illinois Wesleyan, you just have so much size, and your guys play so hard, and then that system creates all this energy. Um, that game in particular, um, that was kind of a heavyweight matchup. It felt like to me. It seemed like two of the bigger teams in the country, two very skilled teams. That game was very close from start to finish, Matt.
Yeah, that was a great early season matchup. And Coach Rose and Andy Etheridge, they do a great job. Like Illinois Wesleyan presents some serious challenges. The Noah Cleveland is a beast inside, and obviously Friedman makes it go on the perimeter, and then for Funk and Kolak and all those guys on the wings slashing downhill at you, and then the transfer that shoots it incredibly
Yeah,
well.
Case and Lawrence. Yeah,
Yeah, and then it seems like they bring four more guys in off the bench that are big, strong, physical, and so when we beat Maryville on Friday night, I knew that we were in for just a knockdown drag out thing on Saturday afternoon. And I was pleased with the way we responded. We kind of got down early and then we responded well. Got down again in the second half and responded. And so I thought it was just a good sign for what this group is capable of. It's a pretty resilient group so far, and I think playing the way we're playing, you got to be that way. There's going to be some
right.
moments where it's really, really good. There's going to be some moments where it's really bad and you just got to move on. And so I give a lot of credit to our guys for doing that. And then, you ask characteristics. I do think we have a pretty emotionally controlled group. There's not too many guys that get too high or get too low. And so I think in some of these close games we've had so far, they've done a really good job at just trying to be, pretty level emotionally. Especially the older guys, they really understand it. So a lot of credit to those guys for just controlling their emotions in the middle of all this chaos.
One thing about that type of system, and there's a lot of variations of it. I think of what Redlands does in particular. You saw them there. I think it was at that Wittenberg GLI I mentioned.
Yep.
Um, and like what Redlands does, or even like what North Park or Wisconsin Lutheran, seems to me that one of the huge advantages is that oftentimes the other team has to change their personnel. So like if Illinois Wesleyan's used to playing with like a 6-7-4 and a 6-9-5, and neither's that mobile, oftentimes Ron Rose in these games will have to just pick between the two of them and put another ball handler out there. Have you found that in the early going of running this, that I guess you'll see it more in your league, but that a lot of times your opponents may be forced to change what they do because of what you do?
I mean, a little bit, I'd say. We've played some teams with some good guards so far and some good perimeter play. But I think that's an element to it. Teams do have to try and adapt a little bit to what you're doing. Um, when you're motion and man to man, if your personnel is really good, which over the course of our time at Oshkosh, we've had some really good personnel. And, you mentioned Jack Flynn and Levi Borchert, like those guys. If we had done this with those guys, it would have been malpractice and I probably would have been fired. Okay. But we don't have those guys. Like we're built differently. And so now I do think that, people have to adjust a little bit to what we're doing, or at least, scout and prepare differently for us than what they used to have to do. So it's been fun. There's been challenges on our end as well. Like we have to do a lot of things differently too. And sometimes as a human being, change is hard, but also it can be really, really fun. And I've got 13 years of practice plans behind me. It used to be you could almost plug and play, and now you might as well chuck all those out and you're just building a new thing, and that can be a really fun thing. So I think we're just excited about the challenges that it presents for the opponent, and recognizing the challenges that it presents for us too.
I think this is year 8 as the head coach.
This is year 8. Yeah, that's scary.
That's amazing. Like that I read your bio earlier today. I was like, how could this be 8? I mean, I remember when you were the interim and you had to interview for the job while you had the national champion trophy. The stuff goes pretty fast, Matt. Does that 8 years?
It goes crazy fast. I've got pictures of again my daughters when they're at a game and they were 6 months old and we're celebrating a big game together, and now they're running around like crazy at the Illinois Wesleyan event. They rode the bus with us to and from the gym every single time, and my wife was helping get them around. My parents were there. Fortunately, I've got just a saint of a wife, and then just unbelievable support system with my family. But it has gone really fast, and I'm trying to cherish every moment of it. because not a lot of people get to coach college basketball. So it's been a lot of fun. And then we've got an incredible group this year. They're a blast to be around. So while I feel like I've gotten a little older on the sideline, I'm not quite as crazy. I do feel like I've got a ton of energy because our guys, they're just so energetic and positive, and it's a lot of fun to be around right now.
We're talking to Matt Lewis, the head coach at Wisconsin-Oshkosh. They got in the poll today, ranked number 17. They're 3-1. We talked about Michael Metcalf is it Grassman? Is that correct? Grassman.
Right. Yep.
He came back. I think the Carroll game was his first game. He had a monster season last year. Can you remind us what that injury was and kind of where is he 100% now and recovering from whatever he had going there?
Yeah, he tore his ACL and a few other things in his knee.
Mm,
Um, and then he had a couple different surgeries. He had the one major reconstructive surgery, but then they had to go back in and clean a couple things up. And he's just such a special young man. I mean, last year, pre-injury, got injured in game 13 last year, second game of conference play. And he was averaging, I think he ended up averaging technically 22,
yeah,
but prior to through 12 games, it was like 24 and 8.
right.
Uh, and he was still a very selfless guy. I used to have to tell him if we got down in a game last year, I used to have to tell him, like, basically, don't pass, just go. And I think ultimately, his I've seen that like through the rehab process. Just his approach every day has been very calm, very selfless with the way he interacts with his teammates. I mean, really all the way, even last year when he couldn't do anything, he was just, in a brace on the bench. Just his approach was unbelievable. And then this fall when he started working back, you'd think a kid that was averaging that pre-injury would come back into practice and just try and jack shots right and left to see if it could go in the hole again. And he's just been very calm and cool and kind of let the game come to him. And then he's been picking his moments to be really aggressive. And on Saturday, his first attempt was almost a major poster. He got fouled, but it was like we'd seen him do that a few times pre-injury, and for his first attempt in a game to just be this high-flying, almost poster, you were standing on the sideline as the coach, and it was just like this is really cool moment. This kid's worked through a pretty gruesome injury, and he's back, and he's just handled it so incredibly well. And so I think he's got a tremendous family to help him through it, and then Megan, our athletic trainer, Wade, who heads up our athletic training staff that worked with the surgeons and the doctors. Um, we're just really fortunate to have the setup we have, and for Mike to approach it the way he did. And I'm thankful that tomorrow he gets to play again. Like it'll just be really cool every time he gets to step on the court.
Yeah, so for the voters that voted for Oshkosh, which I was one of, I mean, you're essentially now it's now an Oshkosh team with another stud. I mean, a big time stud that gets added to this mix. Um, just a couple other questions for you. The league, the WIAC this year, I believe the preseason poll was Lacrosse was one, Platteville was two. Was Eau Claire three, or it was like Eau Claire and you, or some order of those two?
I think it was Eau Claire, then Point, then us, I
Oh,
think.
that's right. I forgot Point was in there too. So that's a really, I mean, no surprise. That's a really loaded top of the league. It's a really loaded one down to eight. We know that. It seems like from what I've watched, like I'm sold on Lacrosse. Done. Like they're really, really good. They're really good. I think they're a top five-ish team easily. And then it seems Platteville lost a ton and is figuring things out. I'm sure they'll be good. They're kind of figuring out things. Eau Claire's undefeated. Maybe haven't had that test yet you're looking for. You guys have played great. Stevens Point, have they lost yet? I don't think Stevens. I'm not
I'm
sure.
not sure.
I don't
I'm
think they
not sure.
have. So when you look at the league this year, I guess we could be 10 years ago and I'd ask you this, but your outlook on the Wisconsin intercollegiate this year, Matt.
14 round prize fight, and you hope to be standing at the end. Um, it's it's really good. I mean, lacrosse, you hit it on the head. Lacrosse is they're legit. They've got a number of guys that are back from last year. Three of them have done a ton in their career so far, lacrosse, and then they've got some really nice pieces that they added to it.
Yeah.
Some guys that got better. So Coach Chris Mocker does a good job with them. They're the real deal. Platteville is big, strong, physical. They lost a few of the perimeter guys, but they've returned a couple. Then a few of the guys within their program seem to have taken some steps forward, and that's going to be, a very physical, challenging game when you play them. And obviously, Coach Guard does a good job. Point is, they seem to turn people over right and left. They're always built on the defensive side of the ball and motion on the offensive side. They're great. Eau Claire. They brought in like 3 or 4 D2 transfers. A few of them are really, really good. That combined with the D2 transfer from the year prior,
Right.
they're talented. And Coach Malvick does a good job with them. And that Stout, River, Whitewater all have really good pieces
Yep.
too. It's the classic WIAC. If you can win a game, you're excited about it, and then you got to quickly flush it and move on to the next and prepare because there's no nights off in January and February.
Do you like that the COVID extra year era is over? Like I personally do. I know there's still a lot of transfers, obviously. It just seemed like for a while there things were really weird where there'd be all these fifth year guys over here, and then this team doesn't have any. Are you glad that that's all over, or no big deal? What are your thoughts on that 4 years we just went through where we had that extra year?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I could see both sides of it. Ultimately, Levi Borchard still got a fifth year, so I don't know how that works. I'd love if Levi comes back, but no, I could see what they were trying to get done.
Yeah,
There if there were kids that were able to financially make it work and their career was affected by that year, um, I thought it made sense to let it work for those kids.
agree.
No doubt, as you went through it, it felt like you just, all of a sudden there was just a lot of kids floating around.
Right.
Kids that were back for a fifth year while you kept bringing in new kids. Um, just the never ending. It felt like everybody just kept getting older and older.
Right. Right.
Every team, the average age was growing and growing, and so it's been. I think there's a lot of change this year within the league. There's some returners that are really good, and then there's some new faces, and it is kind of fun to scout new faces, prepare for new
Yeah.
faces. But I was thinking about COVID. I don't know, we had a kid that he messaged me, and he sent me a play that he really liked on Instagram. One of our alums, and he was a freshman in COVID. And I'm like, he would have been one of those kids that we locked in a dorm for,
Ugh,
10 days, and we thought it was a good plan at the time, and we were just operating with the info that we have. I'm like, what a wild world that we all kind of persisted through.
right.
Uh, so I'm hopeful we don't have to live through that again, and we don't have to discuss what the heck it does for our D3 hoops because it's much cleaner and simpler right now than it was.
Well, I told my people at Illinois Wesleyan they need to start a grad school before the next pandemic. Just you know, and I think there's people listening to me, so stay
At
tuned
least
on
a
that.
couple programs, at least a
Yeah,
couple.
yeah. Your next stretch here. So tomorrow you're at Edgewood, and that is a game you play the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Every year you rotate there and at your place. So you have Edgewood. Sunday you have Augustana, and I didn't know much about what they were going to have this year because they lost so many seniors from their team last year, but they've played really well. Like Augustana's been good. You've got Benedictine, and certainly not try to skip over any of these games. You have a big one at Calvin. That's in December. So you have a really good stretch here coming up. The game tomorrow at Edgewood. Talk a little bit just about how you're preparing for that one tomorrow.
Yeah, they've played three so far, and they had a good one at Point. They were close to Point. I think they were winning the game with about 9 minutes left or 10 minutes left. Played Chicago pretty close. Um, Dubuque played really well against them, but it's always a challenge. And we've had some serious battles with Edgewood on this pre-Thanksgiving game, and they've got a few kids that have played with some of our guys in high school. So there's always that element to it. It's going to be a battle. It's just kind of what it is. I do think that Division III just keeps getting better and better
Yeah.
overall, and so Well, I know we try and schedule really good games. Like next week, you're talking about some of these games. Like every game is a serious freaking battle,
Yep.
and I mean, I don't, going to Edgewood is always a freaking challenge for us, and so I am fully locked in. You mentioned what Augie does. I literally all I know is Augie is good, but I haven't even taken a second look other than I know they're good. So we're 100% focused on
Yeah, they
tomorrow.
just played they lost their first one. It was a tough one, a close one to Dubuque. I think it was at Dubuque, maybe. Um, and then that Calvin game that's coming up on December 6th, that's one of these fascinating style games now where I'm dying to see Jalen Overway dealing with the way you're playing basketball. That to me seems absolutely fascinating. Now you might not find playing Jalen Overway fascinating at all, but sitting here in Dallas on my couch, I'm gonna love that, Coach Lewis. That's gonna be great.
There's probably flights to Grand Rapids. I mean, you can
That's true. There's
come
a
on up.
direct flight from
Yeah,
Dallas
there
to
you
Grand
go.
Rapids.
There you
Yeah.
go. You can sit with your guys. So no, that'll be a fun. And Coach Saul does a great job. We played him twice last year because we were both annoyed with scheduling, and so late in the process last year, we added a second game rather
Right.
than trying to track one down. And this is kind of the return game, to get back to Calvin and play him again. And it is fun to go and play at some of these places that are got really cool facilities and
Yeah.
have a lot of tradition. That'll be fun for some of our guys that have not gotten to go over that direction. And Jalen Overway is obviously really good.
Yeah.
One of those guys at our level that you're like, why is he at Division III? And we've been fortunate to have a few of those. It is not the most fun when you have to go against those guys, and
Yeah.
and so that game will be a challenge. And who knows? Who knows what the heck happens there?
All I know is that's going to be a fascinating one to watch.
It will
Uh,
be.
well, Matt, I really appreciate your time, and the timing worked really well here with the new poll coming out today. And I suspected that you guys were going to get in. Just it seemed like most of the voters that I was talking to had you on the ballot. You've looked great. It is a very talented Oshkosh team, D3 Hoops Nation. I mean, if you haven't watched them yet, they have a bunch of dudes that just roll in and out in these line changes, and it seems like they're all like 6'5" to 6'7", and then there's some guards that don't miss any shots. So check out the Titans. They're playing good basketball in a very different kind of system than you're used to. Matt, I'll kick it over to you for final thoughts. Certainly Titan Nation is going to be tuning in here to this. QCast Nation, D3 Hoops Nation, what do you leave everyone with today, Matt Lewis, here on the QCast?
Just appreciation. I am thankful that you cover D3 hoops the way you do, and for all the guys. I know that the GLI just had another great weekend, and
They did.
a lot of guys were there, and it is a pretty cool thing going on in D3 hoops right now. And I think as I've gotten a little bit older, I think I've been able to maybe breathe and recognize just how cool of a level it is. When you're younger, you get a little like we gotta put our blinders on, and now I think I can just recognize a little bit more how cool the people are at this level. And so, thank you guys for covering. Our people that follow us religiously. It's been really cool. We had 150 plus people in the stands down at Carroll on Saturday.
Sure.
We had a ton of people at the Sigma for our first home opener. We filled a place here in town with it's like 120 people for a post game gathering. So we've had a pretty cool following this year, and that's been a lot of fun. But ultimately, I do just want to thank our guys and Max, our assistant, and all of our student managers that are helping us with this crazy system. People are leaning into it, and it's allowed me as a coach to have a lot of fun so far. And so I'm just really appreciative of our team being willing to try something.
I appreciate that. And I'll just put a plug in for some of the new stuff that's come out. So I mentioned the D3hoops.com top 25 poll just released. So head to D3hoops.com today for that. A new D3 Datacast episode was released early this morning. They break down Matt's top 25 ballot. They break down the Great Lakes Invitational. They rank every team, all of that cool stuff, their games of the week. My friend Dave McHugh said that his Hoopsville is going to be postponed a day or two. So check back with Dave on Hoopsville. That's coming. You've got Carl Barkley with D3 Direct, who is at the GLI. Ryan Whitnable just finished up the GLI. Kudos. Riley Zayas. So everyone's doing all their stuff right now. We're in the middle of the season. It feels like it's cranked up. It's ready to go. Matt Lewis, I really appreciate your time. I'm going to see you at a gym somewhere before the season ends. I guarantee it. I just hope that we're not playing you guys in like an Elite Eight or something. I don't want to have to play you again. I said that as I was leaving the Shirks, and I was like, I'm really glad we won, and I don't want to play those guys again. So I don't want to play you guys again, Matt. I have to tell you that right now.
Well, that's a fun response. I hope people don't want to play us for a variety of reasons, but if we can play in March this year, I'd be ecstatic. But really, I'm just glad we get to play tomorrow. So let's go tee it up tomorrow.
Folks, that's Matt Lewis, and that's QCast Season 6, Episode 6. He's made his return from Season 1, Episode 7. We both look exactly the same as that episode. Matt, thanks so much, and we'll see you soon, my friend.
Thank you very much.